we have to comply with certain requirements. And we will go into details afterwards, but I would like just to summarize the most important points, which needs, therefore, an amendment and amending our international constitutions. There are some details we have to add. For instance, behind our title page of the Constitution, we have to add an additional page which states exactly when the Constitution was last amendment, with the exact date, not the period, but the exact date, and signature of the outgoing president with her executive secretary, and the incoming president with the new executive secretary. Moreover, we need to declare the signatories in the Constitution. Of course, not the names, but the functions. We need to say exactly that 2 persons or 3 persons of the BPW executive have to sign any contracts, and it's not only 1 person alone. Second change is the audited annual financial report has not only to be sent to the international board as it was customs now and as we had stated in our constitution, but we will also have to vote upon. So at the same time, we are sending out the audited financial statement of a fiscal year, 1st of January to 31st of December, will have to be sent to the international board also with a link to vote, to accept or not accept it, or to abstain. Therefore, the international board will have to have a virtual vote on the acceptance of the report once every year, because normally in Switzerland, the associations have to have a general assembly every year. This is not our case. It's also a question of money. We do it every 3 years, but the finances have to be accepted through a vote by the international board. Moreover, there will be an appendix to the Constitution with the definitions. Definitions, what is a member? Just to cut it short, we have 3 categories of members. We have federations, affiliate clubs, or individual members in a country where there is no federation or no club. The executive will submit, latest by the 18th of December, a motion to the international board with a package for with all these changes and resolutions to accept or reject these changes. And we will, the international board will have to vote a month later for that we can have an extraordinary general assembly in June. So the dates are exactly respecting the order we have now in our constitution. And only in this extraordinary general assembly we will virtually debate on each single resolution and accept or reject the amended constitution. During November and December, we informed all 5 regions and presented the draft constitution. To remedy our now vulnerable position, we need the collaboration and support of you all. With acceptance of an extraordinary General Assembly and the amended constitution, we will be able to work during the Congress on the resolutions that will be handed in after the call to the normal Congress goes out as a normal Congress business. So to be very clear, what we do now is adapt the Constitution to the requirement of the Office of Registry in Geneva. Anything else that has not been discussed during the last international Congress, virtual Congress we had in Cairo, or we had to put aside, we had only the external resolutions that were accepted, will be by the resolution chairs sent to the proposers and will be asked if they want to maintain their proposition or not. So these resolutions will come, if the proposers maintain them, they will come up again at the International Congress. And of course, if there are new resolutions that will be brought in the correct time frame after the call to Congress, will also be discussed at the International Congress next fall 2024. So that is in short the background. We did not have a registration since we left. We sold our apartment in Battersea in London. And somehow it was after the Congress in Helsinki, everybody thought that we were registered and everything was okay. I think it was done in the best intentions by the then international president, but it was really I realize it's a bit difficult because the registry offices are not federal, but cantonal. That means you have to register in each canton, but we have a database that is national. And for instance, when BPW International signs a contract, or let's say we deal with a hotel, or we deal with a restaurant or another company, and they send us a contract and the contract is signed, then they can check this database and see if we are the legally ordered people, the correct people to sign this contract, and if this contract is really valid. I think it enhances the transparency of our actions. So that is just my brief introduction to give you a background of the history of our registration. And I think it is for us, for BP, for an organization of our size, of our impact, it is very, very important to be registered. And as the International Board decided in 2011 to do it in Switzerland, it happens to be the case that I'm Swiss, but that is not the important thing. I think we have already now done all the preparations, and it would be important to do it here. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. I give over the floor to our CAC chair, Caroline Savage.
Thank you, President Catherine. And I'd like to acknowledge our Executive Secretary, Jenny, and past International President Yasmin Dawich, and Regional Coordinator for Latin America, Diana Barragan. Welcome. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Greetings, greetings, greetings from New Zealand. As you know, I'm Caroline Savage. I'm your CAC chair, and I'm going to take you through the process, the journey to date, and where we're going from here. So, as the slide shows, from 2011 to 2023, we're talking about 12 years. In 2011, registration to be obtained in Geneva. The resolution was adopted at the 27th BPW International Congress, Helsinki. In 2021 to 2023, the existing constitution and regulations required review, what was found, what required amendments, and new mandatory clauses identified for registration compliance. Now there's 175 slides. I'm not going to take you through all of them today. You've been given a snapshot. So there's about 60 this is being condensed to. But we will be sharing the information, and all the proposed amendments have been prepared for issue to the International Board and to all our members worldwide. So, Part 1, the Constitution Regulations, and Part 2, Procedure Manual. So, an introduction of where we've been, an overview of where we are to date, the BPW Constitution and Regulations. There are 3 clauses to this now, 3 sections. 1, preliminary clauses, 2, Constitution, 3, regulations. So we'll look at Part 1, the Constitution update and revisions, and then Part 1, BPW Constitution regulations. And to let you know also that the Appendix 1 is definitions. So there were definitions included under the Constitution section and under the regulations under our existing document. This has been transferred down into one section called Appendix 1 Definitions. So a definition should exclude non-essentials, and a good definition should be as concise as possible. And as I've said to everyone else, my definition I'll use as an example is a fork. A fork is used to take food from the plate to the mouth. How it's made, how the rules around it, that's in a separate place. So, and we're going to distribute this copy of the PowerPoint presentation with the PDF in a PDF format for review. Next stages. Updated PowerPoint for presentation with any amendments from our executive. Issue draft constitution regulations with proposed amendments to Swiss lawyers for review and cross-check, and this was done on the 30th of October. Draft resolutions for every amendment proposed, and there's 63. Preparation of webinars with President and CAC Chair for distribution to all affiliate federations, affiliate clubs, and individual affiliate members. Presentation across the 5 regions with each of the regional coordinators and CAC representatives of the region present. And I'd like to acknowledge Beatrice this morning as well, or this evening for you. And call for vote from the International Board on an extraordinary virtual General Assembly for the purpose of the review of the amendments to this Constitution regulations for registration purpose. And then the procedure manual draft presentation, which will take place once we've got this finalised. So a quick overview. In February 2022, I did a presentation to BPW Intercontinental on the proposed work that would be undertaken on the Constitution regulations over the following 12 to 16 months. In November 2022, President's message to all on the issue of BPW International's registration and the work that was required on the Constitution regulations. And this was posted on our BPW International website. So information was received from the Swiss lawyers about August, I think, this year. Pulled this information together with fantastic support of our CAC committee, and draft presentation was presented to our international executive in October. Since then, there's been presentation to all the 5 regions, and you are the lucky group for the final one before Christmas. Now, the timeline below shows you the normal process for Constitution regulation amendments would take place. So for our Congress in November 2024, this is the process. May, the key information to be submitted to the President's office 6 months before the General Assembly. Excuse me. 4 months before the General Assembly, nominations and resolutions circulated to the International Board. Excuse me. And on the 31st BPW International Congress. So this is where our normal process would be. But for this set of constitution, regulation and proposed amendments, we have a different program put together. So the 6th of November to the 9th of December, presentation to all regions and all members. And I'm talking to you from the future. It's the 10th of December. 18th of December, call to the International Board to vote on an extraordinary virtual General Assembly for the review, voting on the BPW International Constitution and Regulations amendments for the purpose of registration in Geneva, as adopted at Congress 2011. So December 2023, 6 months prior to the EVGA, issue of resolutions showing existing amended constitution regulations to the International Board and affiliate federations and affiliate clubs, individual affiliate members. So these are ready. They're going to be just translated now into all the other 4 languages, and then they'll be distributed with the call to the International Board. The 11th of January, there will be another meeting with BPW Intercontinental presentation that we've been sharing with everyone now. February, 4 months prior, amendments to the resolutions are received. April, 2 months prior, final resolutions for the extraordinary virtual General Assembly. June, extraordinary virtual online General Assembly, should say, Constitution and Regulation amendments. Amended Constitution regulations signed and ratified, a copy of the minutes issued for registration by the 30th of June 2024. So I'd like to introduce the Constitutional Advisory Committee. Again, they have been fantastic to work with, and I think I don't have the slides, so I'm showing exactly what's been presented previously. The review of the Constitution, Regulations and Procedure Manual over the past 12 to 16 months. We've reviewed current documents, legal review for registration in Geneva, and historic information. So there's been 3 items of work. 1, Constitution Regulations, review and development of amendments was started in late 2021. 2, retaining the registration of BPW International with Geneva as per the resolution adopted at the 27th BPW International Congress 2011. And 3, Constitution and Regulation amendments for compliance with Swiss Civil Code. For example, information in existing Constitution regulations and procedure manual repositioned or reworded, and general amendments of items not currently included in our documents. So an overview
Caroline,
today.
excuse me, may I just interrupt? We are already far into the presentation. May I ask all the presidents and members, does translation work for you with the subtitles?
Yes, please let me know. Thumbs up. Is it clear?
Is it okay?
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you all. So an overview to date for some that may or may not be aware, BPW International requires registration in Geneva as per the motions and actions required following the new Constitution and Regulations and Procedure Manual passed at the 27th BPW International Congress, Helsinki, in the 5th and 6th business sessions on the 21st of June 2011. So this is a copy from the Congress proceedings. So a vote to accept and apply to Geneva registration, motion to adopt the new Constitution, and adoption of the new Constitution. This was passed, and the President, who was then past International President Liz Benham, thanked everyone for the extensive input into the drafting process. So registration with Geneva in Switzerland, some history. Again, from the proceedings, which are all online. So a point of clarification, Canada pointed out that the items in red relating to BPW's registration in Geneva could not be amended by Congress as they needed to retain BPW's registration. The Executive Secretary confirmed this and reiterated that even if Congress voted against the new constitution regulations, a vote would need to be taken by Congress to insert Geneva clauses into the existing constitution and bylaws. So bylaws are now referred to as regulations. And under the Swiss Civil Code, it is a requirement of registration in Geneva that this constitution and these regulations comply with the Swiss Civil Code. The relevant articles in the 2010 version of the code are Articles 60 to 79. So we're talking about 12 to 13 years ago. And things have changed. So by BPW International Executive, so again what we reviewed, had received a letter of concern from young BPW members post-General Assembly, March 2021, which required the CAC committee to review and identify any necessary changes. Please note that if there's anything that is a specific change to our Constitution and regulations and procedure manual, they required formal resolutions. So BPW International Constitution Regulations and its supporting documents, the procedure manual, were to be reviewed to identify any potential information for inclusion or amendments. 4. Review of the CAC draft documents version 2 dated 29/11/2013, and there's about 575 pages, I think. And review of the Constitution regulations of 2011 and 2014 in respect to changes. So we've done a lot of background history. So the registration process has been misunderstood from a global perspective. It is not a reflection on the work of the committees since 2011. It was the system. The CAC committee of 2021 to 24 have recognised the work of all of those before us. The office of the original registrar wasn't the correct office. So we're working to have it implemented into the correct registered office. This is to assist the future management of our international organisation. So just in brief, I won't read everything in there, but we've noted that International President Dr. Catherine Bossart had been working through her training to follow up with the registration of BPW International in Geneva, as per the resolution passed at the International Congress in Helsinki 2011. As a result, the independent Swiss law firm, who specialises in registration for non-profit organisations and associations in Geneva, had reviewed our current documents and proposed some restructuring. For items that are embedded as governance into our constitution and regulations be retained, while items that are around the implementation of these rules, they are put into the procedure manual as they can be easily amended. For example, as noted under the procedure manual, if language, grammar, or spelling errors can be changed without resolutions and between General Assemblies, and updated without formally going through the amendment and resolution the Constitution would require. And we did ask, when we had the meeting with the lawyers, I said to them, can we put our existing Constitution and regulation forward for registration? And we got a blanket no. There are clauses in there that don't comply, and we have to have some mandatory clauses to meet the requirements. So, at the General Assembly March 2021, and upon receipt of the letter of concern by young BPW members following the GA, it was confirmed by the CAC chair that the current constitution and regulations and the procedure manual would be reviewed for proposed amendments to address some of the discrepancies or areas requiring further detail of BPW international documents. So some of that will be part of what we do at Congress, not as part of this. But the PowerPoint has been prepared in compliance with our Constitution, regulations, and procedure manual to illustrate what is current or existing, what is proposed to be amended, example, simple text grammatical amendments, or proposed rewording by the external independent legal team, which have added some valid recommendations for all consideration and debate voting by our International Board and delegates at the BPW International General Assembly, November 2024. Note that if the International Board don't agree to an extra virtual General Assembly, one, we will not meet the registration date, but also we could spend all our Congress general business discussing this. But the intent is that we give a really strong foundation document so that our future executives that have a really good tool to use and the information's there. So, difference between association and organisation, because when I take you through this document, you'll see that we will be referred to as BPW International, and in brackets, the association. So, association, we have funding, membership fees, and donations. So everything in yellow is what we do. Legal status, the association is typically a non-profit. Focus, we focus on advocacy and networking, and we do that really well. Size, associations are typically smaller in size. Totally disagree with that when you look at our membership worldwide. Structure, the structure of the association is less formal and flexible. No, we have a very clear structure about our organisation. Membership, voluntary or by invitation. And examples, societies, clubs, and professional associations. So BPW International, the Federation, is a group of membership organisations or professional associations that had joined together to form a larger, usually representative organisation or governing body. It is, in effect, an association of associations. So the impact of the Anti-Money Laundering Act revision on associations' compulsory registration with the Commercial Register. Prior to the entry into force on the 1st of January 2023 of the revision of the Anti-Money Laundering Act and its implementing provisions, RO 2021-656, Swiss law required only associations which conducted commercial activities and associations subject to audit requirements to register with the Commercial Register. This situation has now evolved. In this perspective, associations that fulfill the following cumulative conditions remain exempt from the mandatory registration with the Commercial Register. So this slide was updated just to show the monetary side. What are the limits before tax is applied for a non-profit association? It must exceed two of the following. Total assets of Swiss francs, 10 million. So in US dollars, that's 11.33 million or 10.38 euros. Has sales revenue of 200 million. Wouldn't that be fantastic? But no. So that works out to US 22.66 million. 50 full-time equivalents is annual average. This means, and I haven't changed because this is the same error I've sent out to everyone. Example of full-time paid employees. So exempt non-profit organisations with a total of 150 Swiss francs, or that's 169,000 US dollars or 155,000 euros, and associations with less than 250,000 Swiss francs. So that's 280,000 US dollars or 259,000 euros. The VAT for non-profit and volunteer-run associations of revenue over 150,000 Swiss francs or 169,000 US dollars or 155,000 US do require annual audited review accounts, which BPW International does not require, and note the rates are based on the 23rd of the 11th. Does the Federation of BPW International require registration? Is there existing mandates within BPW International policy to be registered with Geneva? Yes. It was adopted at the 27th BPW International Congress 2011. 1. During the last 2 business years, the fund raised or distributed do not exceed annually 100 Swiss francs, Article 90, Paragraph 2, LIT, of the Ordinance of the Commercial Register. No. Yes, finances projects with its own resources for amount exceeding 100,000 Swiss francs should mandatory register. 2. The funds are distributed by the financial intermediary within the meaning of the Anti-Money Laundering Act. So Article 90, Paragraph 2, B Ordinance, in particular banks within the meaning of Article 2. So yes, when we work on projects, when we've supported our sisters around the world, then we can be providing money through another intermediary. Unless one of the association's representatives is domiciled in Switzerland. Well, we do. We have BPW Switzerland. So new mandatory clauses added to meet Swiss Civil Code in the Constitution and regulations. The Articles of Association to comply with Swiss Civil Code. Preliminary clauses to identify all supplementary documents that are to be read with the Constitution and regulations, but not included in such. So that's our procedure manual. But it could be in the future a financial policy document or other supporting documents to say how we run the organisation. In order to comply with legal provisions, the affiliates clause is renamed as members. This is because an association is necessarily made up of members. The executive board, or 1/5 of the members of BPW International, the association, in accordance with Article 64, Paragraph 3 of the Civil Code, may at any time request that an extraordinary General Assembly be held, specifying the purpose thereof. Power of representation, the President and 1 or more collective signatories from the executive are required. Submission of the minutes of the business sessions of the General Assembly with a copy of the new executive signatories are to be submitted to the Registration Office 3 months after the International Congress. Constitution and regulations are to be updated with all resolutions adopted in the General Assembly and signed by the outgoing executive signatories in the last business session of the General Assembly. So, our BPW International Constitution and Regulations, as adopted at the 30th General Assembly, 17th of March 2021. So that's the latest document as well we reviewed. In compliance with our Constitution regulations, the process we're taking you through is to meet in accordance with the existing Constitution regulations. C8 amendments. The Constitution can be amended only at a General Assembly. So, BPW International Constitution Regulations, Part 1, the structure and statutes to align with Swiss Civil Code. Throughout, and when you see the documents that will be coming through, the comments, edits, amendments, proposed new changes are identified with colour. New section or heading, text amended below, new text added, or text removed. So we'll start with our cover page, some minor amendments, adjustment of text, for example, updates on amendments included in footer, name, statutes and date of most current, approved, most prominent, address removed from front page, plus a new designed cover, then that's optional. So on the left-hand side is what our existing cover looks like. On our right-hand side is what the proposed new cover with statutes 2023 or 2024 for adoption. And the yellow box is when they're actually adopted. And note, statutes for adoption date to be added when approved. So for example, if it was the 31st General Assembly, November 2024. Address details relocated under name and headquarters. New section added, ratified. A new page will be added into the front section of the Constitution and Regulations document. It is to be signed following all constitution and regulation resolutions that have been voted and passed during the General Assembly. And in fact, they're called proposed amendments. And you'll see that in the document that's been issued. The final document must include the above and is made ready for the outgoing executive to sign before close of the General Assembly. So that means a bit of work for the Constitutional Committee and Chair. This will then be issued to the head office in Geneva within 3 months following the General Assembly, with a copy of the minutes and a copy of the new signatories for the next triennium. So, these updated Articles of Association of the International Federation of Business and Professional Women, IFBPW, also known as BPW International, the Articles consist of the following 3 sections. 1, preliminary clauses. 2, constitution. And 3, regulations. 2, process. These articles have been reviewed, debated, voted, and approved and updated, with the final articles presented for approval at BPW International General Assembly held November 2024. But if the International Board approve, then this will be the online General Assembly. All future resolutions for amendments and approved changes will be voted during the General Assemblies and will be signed off prior to the end of the last business session by the outgoing signatories of the Executive. Registration. A copy of the minutes of the General Assembly with a copy of the new signatories' details and a list of the Executive Board are to be included at the time of these being submitted to BPW International's, the Association head office in Geneva, and submitted within 3 months. So you can see the example of the layout on the right-hand side of the screen. It would be signed by our International President, Executive Finance Officer, Executive Secretary, and possibly the First Vice President. New sections and or numbers and numbering added. So 1, preliminary clauses, numbered P1 to P3. 2, constitution, numbered C1 to C14. 3, regulations, numbered 1 to R1 to R14. And Appendix 1, BPW International definitions. So, preliminary clauses. These Articles of Association of the International Federation of Business and Professional Women, IFBPW or BPW International, the Articles consist of the following 3 sections. 1, preliminary clauses. 2, constitution. 3, regulations. Annexes, Appendix 1, BPW International definitions. 2, capitalized words. In these Articles of Association, words and expressions which have the first letter of the Constitution word capitalized shall have the meaning set out in Appendix 1 to the Articles of Association, entitled Appendix 1, BPW International Definitions, which is annexed to these Articles of Association. The definitions in this appendix apply to both the singular and plural of the terms concerned. Procedure Manual. The Procedure Manual is a supplementary document drawn up by BPW International, the association, containing a set of regulatory standards which supplement or clarify the application of the Articles of Association. Under Swiss law, these rules do not have to be included in the Article of Association. The Procedure Manual may be consulted by any member who submits a written request to the Executive Secretary. Constitution regulations amendments must be prepared with attached clear rationales as to their impact on the Procedure Manual. When approved, the changes, updating the Procedure Manual should be carried out at the same time as the updating of the Constitution regulations. There will be no need to make any further reference to the International Executive. The Procedure Manual may be amended by the Executive Board. Such amendments apply only after they have each singly accepted by a majority vote of the International Board. And these are things that were in our current Procedure Manual and have been carried across. So part 1A, Constitution. So our existing Constitution contents list, C1 to C8. Our new Constitution contents list from C1 to C14. And you will see some of these have actually been just renamed, renumbered, or they've been relocated from the regulations, or might have even come across from our procedure manual. And you'll see under C13 was originally C5 affiliates. It's now called members. And there's 13.1 definition, 13.2 membership, and 13.3 termination of membership. We have the means, C8, which was under R8, financial matters and resources. And I see I've got a question. Diana, with some of that came through from the lawyers, so that's something we're looking at. So the small things, but thank you. And just one point, I haven't found the resolution or the proposed amendment to change executive board to executive when I reviewed the operational policy documents, but then the last ones were updated in 2014, so it might have come about in 2015. So, thank you. Right, so the next part is the following sections have been moved and they come from the regulation section or procedure manual. Detailed and money. So as I said, there was 175 slides here. We're sitting at slide 86. I didn't want to take you through every one of them, but you will get a full copy of the PowerPoint presentation and in PDF format, and a copy of all the frequently asked questions that have arisen through all the presentations. We want to make this as transparent and as inclusive as possible so everyone gets to see this information. And the proposed amendments have clear rationales that have been prepared, and they will be going out to all members as well. So every one of these has a proposed amendment number and a rationale to support it. So currently under our C5 affiliates, International Federation of Business and Professional Women, otherwise called BPW International, consists of affiliate federations of business and professional women, affiliate clubs of business and professional women, individual affiliate members, business and professional women. The international board may remove an affiliate. So the lawyer's explanations and notes. In order to comply with legal provisions, we invite you to rename the affiliates clause as members. This is because an association is necessarily made up of members. We have grouped together the definition of the various members in this clause in order to clarify the distinctions between members from the outset. We have also inserted a paragraph on the obligations to keep a list of members. Now, under this section, we had clarification with the lawyers because initially it said every member across the world would be kept by BPW International. But no, it means every federation, affiliate federation, every affiliate club, and every individual affiliate member, their name and the contact details will be kept by, so your president from the federations will be kept by BPW International, and they get updated as the new executive come in. So that was something we all had a minor panic for, because didn't think that our international vice president wanted to keep a list of 10, 25,000, 30,000 members. We also propose that you add directly after the definition of members, the provision relating to the joining and leaving of a member. So the definition is the International Federation of Business and Professional Women, IFBPW or BPW International, consists of the affiliate federations, affiliate clubs, and individual members of the association, the members. Members may be legal entities and or are all persons who have an interest in and or wish to support the mission, social aim, and objectives of BPW International. the association. Members up to 35 years of age are officially recognised as young BPW members. The association is composed of the following, and I haven't included those, but I can show you those slides later. So it's going to be important that we have feedback by all on the proposed draft amendments to our international constitutions. Part 1B, regulations. So our existing regulations contents list is R1 to R24. Oops. And the overview of the regulations that have been relocated or removed from this section. You'll see affiliates have been replaced, restructured, a new title under membership 13, C13, languages, relocated to Constitution 6, regions of BPW International, relocated to our Constitution Section 7, and financial matters have now been renamed and referenced under Constitution 9 and 10. Young BPW members, they've now been put under Constitution 13.1, database, standing committees. So you can see that there's been a bit of a change. So our regulations though, we've got Organisation of BPW International, the association, R2, General Assembly. So this has come from Procedure Manual 8. So there's general information, General Assembly for the triennium, General Assembly for the annual audited accounts. And as our international president noted, that can be, that's under discussion at the moment because we've asked the lawyers, can this be an international board meeting or a vote rather than a General Assembly? Because the cost to our organisation to hold a General Assembly, online General Assembly for the audited accounts would be quite huge. And 2.4, Extraordinary General Assembly. R3, General Assembly, the International Congress. So it's an International Congress has come from R9 and the Procedure Manual 4. Timeframes for Congress and General Assembly, they have now been pulled in, all the timeframes that are required. Meeting mode, proposed for items on the agenda, that comes from Procedure Manual 8.2. Powers, voting at the General Assembly, quorum, decisions, minutes, and conflicts of interest, president, international board. So you can see there's 6 sections around the international board. R7, functions and responsibilities. There's 10 sections under R7 for functions and responsibilities. And then R18, accounting, R9, president, R10, dissolution, R11, liability. It was actually under one of our other, it's in our existing regulations, but it was like a sub-point, 8 point something or whatever. It's now been given its own title and section under the regulations, trustees, amendments, and entry into force. So a quick overview, our International Congress structure. The International Congress is to meet 5 functions. Pre-General Assembly International Board Meeting, General Assembly for the business of the Federation, Post-General Assembly International Board Meeting, the 5 regional meetings. Now this is not in the specific structure, sometimes the 5 regional meetings happen before and some happen after as well. And members' education, empowerment through plenary sessions, keynote speakers, awards dinner, and there's sometimes like pre-Congress events or pre-General Assembly events like reviewing, going through the proposed constitutional amendments or proposed resolutions that have been tabled. Even like we do in New Zealand, we have a pre-budget review meeting before we go into the general business. So, General Assembly, International Congress. R3, 3.8 decisions. And this is a new item, the General Assembly decides by means of resolutions that have been received. Resolutions on finance or dues must be issued 4 months prior to the General Assembly. A resolution is a proposal on the agenda for either internal and operational matters, external and advocacy matters. Motions can be received from the floor from a mover, seconder, and requires a vote to pass or carry the motion. Constitution and regulation resolutions require 2/3 majority vote of the quorum present to be adopted. External resolutions require simple majority vote of the quorum present to be adopted. Reports are received, but before being adopted, any recommendations arising from a report must be seconded before it can be put to the vote, and a simple majority is required to pass the recommendation. Decisions continued. Outside General Assemblies, a written proposal from the Executive or the International Board to which all members who are entitled to vote through a delegate at the General Assembly have subscribed in writing shall be equivalent to a resolution of the General Assembly. The written proposal of the Executive or the International Board is sent by email to the members entitled to vote through a delegate at the General Assembly. Members are given 20 working days to accept the written proposal in writing by return email. After this deadline, the written proposal is considered to have been rejected by the member who has not responded in time. So 3.9 minutes, this is new. The minutes of the general business sessions of the General Assembly are to be submitted 3 months following the closing of the Congress and issued to the registration office with a copy of the amended Constitution and regulations adopted and signed by the outgoing appointed executive signatories in the final business session of the General Assembly. Forms with the details of the newly appointed executive and signatories for the next triennium. 3.9 continued minutes and proceedings. The Congress proceedings and minutes of the General Assembly and the International Congress shall be kept by the Executive or on its behalf, the Executive Secretary. Now, the following item is actually under our procedure manual and has been pulled across into the regulations. Within 12 months of the International Congress and General Assembly, the immediate past president is to work with the Executive Secretary and Executive Finance Officer from her term to ensure the proceedings and the finalized accounts of the International Congress are completed and forwarded to the International Board. This is just to show you a cover of the 27th International Congress. And the following is showing you a table of contents from the proceedings from the 27th, I think it is, 28th Congress, which was in Jeju. Unfortunately, I don't have any other proceedings to show you. 4, conflicts of interest. All members are legally prohibited from being represented by their delegate or from exercising their right to vote in decisions relating to a BPW International and Association matter or lawsuit where they, a close relative, their spouse or their parents or relatives in the direct line are involved, as pursuant to Article 68 of the Swiss Civil Code. Elected or appointed officials are not to participate in making or in any way attempting to use her official position to influence a decision in which she knows or has reason to know she has a conflict of interest. Conflict of interest is when the BPW member derives any personal and or financial gain directly or indirectly as a result of the member's elected or appointed duties in BPW. So the International Board, see Procedure Manual 8. R7, Functions and Responsibilities. Extracts have been carried over from the existing Procedure Manual and original regulations. (7.9) Executive Meetings, see R 2.4 and Procedure Manual 2.2.1. The Executive shall meet as often as necessary, but at least once a year face-to-face. In the case of a year in which the International Congress takes place, the executive meeting must take place before the International Congress. If 3 members of the executive so request, a meeting shall be held within 14 days of the request. The quorum of the executive to hold a meeting shall be 6 members of the executive. Members of the executive may validly participate in a meeting of the executive and make decisions in person, by video or telephone conference, or by any other means decided by the executive. Meetings in person may be held in the country where the president resides or abroad. Meetings of the executive shall be convened by the president of the executive at least 3 months in advance. In urgent circumstances, the president may call an extraordinary meeting with 14 days' notice, with availability confirmed by the executive to ensure a quorum is present. Decisions by the International Board and the executive existing. So we see we're up to slide 159. C6, our fiscal year, is existing. The fiscal year is from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. It is now being relocated into R8 accounting. The executive draws up the accounts for each financial year in accordance with the applicable legal provisions. An accounting year begins on the 1st of January and ends on the 31st of December. Liability. BPW International, the association, is solely liable for its debts, which are guaranteed by its corporate assets. Members have no personal liability for BPW International's, the association's, debts. R13 amendments, which comes from C8. C8 amendments existing. The Constitution can be amended only at a General Assembly. 13, CR13, the Constitution and Regulation Statutes may only be discussed and amended upon receipt of resolutions for submission to the General Assembly of BPW International. A vote of 2/3 of those voting, a quorum being present, is required for an amendment to be adopted. Resolutions are as per outlined under the Procedure Manual. Amendments to the Constitution may be proposed by members of the Executive, the International Board, past presidents of BPW International, affiliate federations who are up to date with their dues, affiliate clubs in the same country, all of whom are up to date with their dues, chair of standing committees. At any time, the Executive and/or International Board may propose to the members by email that the Constitution and Regulation Statutes be amended. The updated Constitution and Regulations Statutes will be proposed through resolutions, amended, voted, and adopted at the General Assembly. Entry into force. The new Constitution and Regulation Statutes shall be amended as proposed and circulated by the Executive to the International Board by email for voting at the extraordinary virtual General Meeting, to be held within 20 days following receipt of proposal. This has been changed to include 6 months to ensure that everyone gets to receipt of the proposed amended Constitution regulation changes, and to have the 4-month period that they can respond to, 2 months for these updated to come back to all the members, and then the meeting is proposed for June 2024 to ensure we meet the compliance and the cut-off period of registration by the 1st of July. These Articles of Association, Constitution regulations, were adopted at the General Assembly held on ... and came into force on the same day. These Articles of Association, Constitution regulations for the Association or BPW International will be put into force to meet the registration criteria of Article 60 and the following item of the Swiss Civil Code, hereafter CC, at the Registrar de Commerce of the Canton of Geneva. So, I've given you a broad overview. As I say, you'll get a copy of the full PowerPoint presentation in a PDF format. I haven't translated it though, so hopefully you can all work with it. But and we've got the section on the frequently asked questions to date, because we want to make sure we share this information, we make this as interactive as possible, transparent, and everyone gets to use their voice. This is the purpose. This is our document to make sure that we've got something really robust. And as I've said to others, when you've got a really good constitution and regulations, that document can go in the bottom drawer. You should only need to pull it out if you really had some questions, but it should be there in place for the future. And it will give our next executive and future executives a really good document to take forward. And the other thing to let you know is under the procedure manual, with all the information we've uncovered, there are now going to be sections called appendices. And these are, for example, we have the base procedure manual, but there are things like, how do you organize a Congress? So that will be an appendix to the document. So anyone that's ever had contracts, you usually have what we call preliminary and general documents, so our constitution regulations, and I see a chat thing come up, I'll answer in a minute. And then you have your procedure manual. So they're our core, what we call our contract documents. But there's all these supplement documents that we want to be able to have access. So they should be online and made ready for everyone to use. So Appendix B, for example, might be how to form an affiliate club. Appendix C might be whatever. But we're going through those at the moment, and that will be part of our procedure manual. They don't have to come into our constitution regulations, but it also means that if a member wants to, say, for example, BPW Iceland, as an example, said we want to host Congress in 2029. That won't be right, but anyway, because we're 24 now. But what it states is then they can go, okay, there's our constitution regulations and there's our procedure manual. Those are the documents we can access easily. Oh, and hang on a minute, there's appendix whatever, and it's on how to organize a Congress. We want to download that, see what it entails, and now we can put a proposal together, put a bid together. So those instructions are all there to make it as transparent and easy for everyone to find the information on how we work. Thank you. And question. Dolores, when it comes to the all the proposed amendments for the Constitution, what I've shown you in a video, in a PowerPoint, is actually all being drafted now, ready for distribution in all the 5 languages. And that's every one of these, every one of the proposed amendments. So there's 63 proposed amendments. So it shows what's existing and what is proposed and the rationales behind it. So it'll be really clear, but the PowerPoint presentation, I'd have to ask President Catherine if we had this translated, because it's 175 pages. Past International President Yasmin, I see your hands raised.
Yes, thank you very much, Caroline. And thank you for this work that you did, or the executive. It's too much information. And even for me that I'm familiar to the Constitution, it is not easy to follow. But anyway, I have some questions for you. How you will count the votes if it's different for a General Assembly to electronic vote? In General Assembly, any constitution changes has to have 2/3 majority votes. Yeah, and are you going to maintain this voting?
Yes. We have to meet the requirements under our constitution regulations. We can't not follow procedure.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
haven't
but
talked about,
because the voting online is different. Is one, I think, 1/4, something like this. So this is different when you require a vote, an online vote for any decision.
no,
Yep,
we
we
have
did
to,
it. We did in the procedure manual, because we have to remember something. In Helsinki, we approved the new constitution, but
12
we
years ago, yes.
realized that, sorry?
Yes, 12 years ago, yes.
Yeah. But every year we make changes
Correct.
according the needs of the organization. This is always the issue during the General Assemblies, that we spend a lot of time reviewing the Constitution and voting for new changes. So it's not a static Constitution. It's always with changes. So
Yes.
what I recall, in Helsinki, we approved the new Constitution. But we realized that many of the articles there mentioned that according to the procedure manual, this has to be followed according to the procedure manual, but we don't have the procedure manual. So it was a nightmare to finish the procedure manual and send it to the international board. So it was a process. Yeah. So what
Yes.
what I don't know how we will deal if it's clear in the Constitution C8, as you mentioned, that the Constitution can be amended only at the General Assembly. Only. And we don't have an extraordinary General Assembly in our rules, in our governance. There is no mention about extraordinary General Assemblies. So how can we deal with this, as we are not following what we have now? This is one
Past
point.
International President Yasmin, let me answer this.
Yeah.
We are forced to do, as well as we have seen it with regulations in Europe, which you probably did not get, but we know that they have to do their regulations before the end of the year, because otherwise they will have to even pay a fine according to the anti-money laundering law in Europe. So we are under more or less the same constraint. What we do, we accept, we vote as we would normally vote as the Extraordinary General Assembly, and we will come with this constitution to the International Board and to the at the normal Congress, and we will vote again on it, that everybody is there, and then we will vote on the resolutions that have come in since 21 and the ones that have been not have been discussed in 21.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Catherine. I am not talking about regional issues. I'm talking about what we have now.
That is, past International President Yasmin, the problem is not that. The problem is that we have to comply with the anti-money laundering laws, and we are under a certain constraint here. I know that it does not regard user regulations of the regions, but they are in the same position. Because Europe has also anti-money laundering laws. We have the same here in Switzerland, and we have to do this. Otherwise, as I told you at the beginning, BPW International is right now in an incredibly weak position. We have an MOU signed with UN Women, and with that MOU, we can work with also UN agencies, and the interest is very high. We will have also the possibility to do a lot of projects and get the money for that. But to be able to do that, we need to have a registration somewhere. So it's high time, and we will do then the ordinary resolutions we will have it accepted by the General Assembly in 2024 in November, and we will discuss the other resolutions that will be coming in, and also that will be left over from BPW from the last Congress in 2021. Next question. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I don't know if any other have questions, because I have like 5 questions for Caroline. I understand.
If I may interrupt. You know, past President Yasmin, you have a very valid concern, and I totally understand where you're coming from as well on this, because we want to make sure that we are in line with the existing rules as well. But at the heart of this, I think, is about the business of the organization. And whenever the core business of an organization comes to a halt and it paralyzes the organization for it to move forward, we've got to look at how we carry on. And I think whenever the core business of any organization comes to a halt, we need to really take a hard look at what we need to do. And registration is a very basic but core concern for an organization. I mean, in Canada, I don't know of a not-for-profit organization that would be given any attention if they were not registered. And so, the basic core business of the organization coming to a halt is a very serious concern. At the same time, I think that the intention, and I must, praise here the leadership of CAC Chair Caroline Savage, that it takes leadership, because yes, there is a committee here, and President Catherine and myself sit on this committee as ex officio members. But if you really look at the leadership of this, and Caroline has extensive knowledge being on CAC before and having the historical background, just like a lot of the past presidents do, I must say that there's a lot of work that has gone into this. And this work definitely is built on, past trienniums. And I think we've come to a place where I think all past presidents would agree that if something is coming to a halt and it's affecting the core business of the organization, we really need to take a really hard look. And I'm hoping that this is with, a long-term vision, because future trienniums and future presidents will remember this particular exercise, because it is really intended for BPW International to set precedents. And by that, I mean, every other country in the future should be aligning with the constitution of BPW International. So I think it's, with I know it's a lot of work. I know it's a lot of understanding. I know it's going to be a lot of educating. I know this can't remain just at the top levels of the organization. It has to trickle down to every local, provincial, state level, national, leadership, for them to also align with this. So I'm really hoping that this is something that we take away, and with an open process, with a lot of dialogue, with a lot of different ideas coming together, that it's really being reviewed and debated with a long-term vision. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Secretary Jenny. I understand what we need and what as an organization need to be changed. But the issue here is that we have a constitution that clearly states when and how we can make changes. So that is my only question. Can be an urgency for this, an urgency for that. I know about UN because we received 70,000 US dollars from UN women. They never ask for the registration, by the way. So, but for me, just attached to our current governance is clear. How can we make a changes of the constitution? But anyway,
sorry, yeah.
Past international president Yasmin. Anyway, we have quite a lot of changes, small changes. You handed in, you showered us with resolutions 2021. And I think certainly some of them will remain. So we will have to comply with the anti-money laundering law. In July, we will be able to register. What you said about UN Women, that is a different story, because if you have buyers or giving for projects, usually you have to have a registration number. In Europe, you can't work without a registration number. That is one thing. Second thing, we will have to vote on the constitution at the International Congress in November anyway, with the changes then made and at the International Constitution. By the way, you were also president and you never cared. You did not do the financial handovers. You did not realize that we were not registered. I think it's about time that we got on a real solid foot and would have all the necessary things. We have no proceedings from 2017. We have no proceedings from 2021. I think this cannot be going on like this. We have to have solid foundation. We have to be registered. We have to be able to comply with the laws of at least one country. We have had it in England, and with the selling of our apartment that was lost. So I think,
Sorry, President Catherine, can I speak? Can I jump in?
Yeah, please do.
There is going to be, and it would be the first in our history, like we always do things that are first in our histories. So the International Board is going to be asked to vote on 2 motions. And one of the motions will be on holding an extraordinary virtual General Assembly. We know it's never been done before, but I know all our members, and I'm sure everyone in this space, maybe one, that would want to see, this is ring fence for a specific purpose. Our general process with amendments to the Constitution regulations will be held at the General Assembly face-to-face, but this one piece of work is specific to ensuring BPW is actually registered, which meets our obligations, which was adopted at the 27th General Assembly. So that's why it's been done. And the amendments, and it's very clear. There is a lot to read, I know, because I've been working on the document. So, but it is very clear, all the changes. It will be straightforward for everyone to understand. And I will just show you all, just very quickly, where to from here, that the presentations will have more webinars, so we make this as clear as possible. And a motion for approval for an extraordinary General Assembly to review, debate and vote. And the voting will be very clear, the process, and it will be approved, and new mandatory constitution regulations. So I will show you, and that's not showing it there, so I will show you in the actual PowerPoint document what the document, oops, wrong screen. Just stop sharing for a moment. And I'll show you what it looks like so you can all understand that there is going to be a very clear document for everyone to be able to review. Because it's really important that everyone gets to see the information, to understand what's done. The PowerPoint presentation was to show everything in a colored format, to make it easy to see where we've come from. And so this is, just take us right through. My computer's just waiting for me. So this is just an example of the draft resolutions or proposed and schedule for the Constitution Regulation Amendments. It has been set up in the same format and layout that was done in the workbook for 2014, I think it was, or 2011. So all the members of that CAT committee were all past international presidents, and the document structure was put in place. So that exactly the same structure has been used, and it will show you, I'll just show you quickly. So this has gone through to our international executive president in the office. So this shows you what those proposed amendments are, numbered 1 through to 63. And with the proposal that the BPW international definitions are voted in full, this shows you what's existing. It says existing wording and existing or proposed. So it's very clear under each section what's new and what is, and the rationale behind each one of those. So some of the rationales are quite detailed, but that will be clear and concise for everyone to be able to review and read. So, and it's going out well in ahead of our normal process time, because we want to ensure everyone has the necessary time to review the information.
And may I
Thank you,
jump
Caroline.
in again?
I think that
Sorry, Yasmin, someone else was speaking first. Sorry.
Sorry,
So he was
yes, I actually think, past President Yasmin, it is really important that we hear all the questions. I think it's important for us to know the questions and the concerns and the comments. And I think also that the frequently asked questions that Chair Caroline is referring to is an important document, because the questions that we have here, the comments and the feedback that we are able to gather here, are probably the same kind of questions and comments and feedback we'll receive on the floor, or that we can address ahead of time so that we can save time. So it is important to have those questions, and that is why CAC Chair is mentioning that all of this will be shared with you, because it's important to be able to then send the questions forward so they could be included in the frequently asked questions, so that everyone else can also see answers to those. And past President Yasmin, it's important to have those questions out and to make sure that the responses are also adequately addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I understand everything very clear, Jenny. I'm just, as you said, I'm playing here the devil game, or something like this. You said, because we are jumping in our own constitution now, in some way, and yes, we didn't realize, because the situation of the registration, because in 2011, I remember very well that President Liz informed with a lot of pride that she already registered BPW International in Switzerland. Before she did that, she made a lot of review, because I was part of her executive, as you remember, and she traveled a lot to Switzerland, and find out that this is the only, as NGO, it was the only way to register BPW International as NGO. So it was not a mistake. It was the correct way to do the things at that time. Maybe now we have another resource to make that clear. We find out about this situation, I think it was in 2018 or 19, after the Cairo Congress, when we need the lawyers, and the lawyers require the registration. And when we sent the registration that we had, they said, no, this is not good enough. So before, none of the international presidents realized that. So we did what we can do at that time. It was not that we didn't know, it was we never had the situation to require lawyers. So now the situation with all the laundry money, I understand, but we are very close to the International Congress, and I think that we have to thinking about it and do maybe more workshops online or something to clearly understand what is the urgency on this. And I'm clear about what you pretend. What I'm just for me, it's what we have is not according what we will ask to the members to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, past International President Yasmin. We have, it's absolutely understood, the Extraordinary General Assembly is not written in our constitution, but we have our highest organ of BPW International is International Board. And it will be submitted as International Board. If the International Board doesn't want to do it, doesn't want to give us a extraordinary General Assembly, then we would need to do it at the normal General Assembly. That means when you think that we have how many resolutions were it? 66, Caroline? Resolutions.
Got it down. I think it's 63.
63. So
Yes.
we were calculating, even virtually, we will need 3 days to discuss each article without all the huge amount of resolutions we have from 2021. So I think we would have to extend our International Congress, and that would cost a fortune by 3 more days. Can you imagine? So it is also, and besides that, there is this anti-money laundering law. We have this international MOU, which is much more than an MOU. It's really with the UN Women. It's really a kind of cooperation between our two organizations. And we will need, because we have not only money from, we will not only get money from UN Women, but we will also get money of GIS. We get money probably from the European Union and so forth. And there we need a registration number. So to go forward with our organization and go beyond advocacy and do concrete projects worldwide, it's a global MOU. It's not a regional MOU. We need sooner or later to have a registration number. So with this, I would like to close. Are there other questions from your side? Not President, past International President Yasmin?
Yes, I will let any other member that if it, and if you allow me, I will back with my questions. But first, I would like to hear from
I
any other
think you have
member of the
had the
region.
floor. You have past International President
Yeah.
Yasmin. We have heard your questions. And now I think it is not a meeting with you, it's a meeting with
Yeah,
our
I know. I'm
American.
telling you that I would like to hear another member
I
if
would
they
like
have
to hear it.
questions. And
Yeah.
as I said to
Yeah,
you, I
okay.
have 4 more questions.
Please, members who are here now, if you have questions, be so kind and ask the questions. Is for you everything clear?
Yes, I was just going to ask, is it being clear enough for everyone that's been present? There is a lot of information. It is not a small piece of work, but it is also required from when we look at where we were in 2011. There have been small increments of changes when we've had a Congress, but this one is a significant piece of work to bring us up to date with Swiss Civil Code, because their own rules have changed and the Anti-Money Laundering Act changed. So the reason being that the International Board will be called to vote on an extraordinary virtual General Assembly is because it will be something totally different. But under this new constitution regulations, one of the mandatory clauses that we have had to include from the lawyers is that 1/5 of the International Board can call for an extraordinary virtual General Assembly. So do just be aware that that is one of the mandatory clauses we've had to include in the document. Yes, if you speak in your language, we've got, I believe, someone who can translate for you. And I've got the transcript. I've got that open. No other questions for anyone else? Then I hand back over to past International President Yasmin, who I recognise.
Thank you.
And yes.
Thank you, Caroline. I think that I read that there will be a General Assembly for audit report every year in the changes
Correct.
that you show.
Yes, that's
Every
correct.
year?
Every year the accounts have to be audited. Now, at the moment, they normally go out to the International Board, and we've actually asked the lawyers that we don't hold a General Assembly, but we are actually be able to have. Now, let me find that section. That they can be voted online and still and then be presented at the General Assembly. But in fact, that the full accounts are included.
So you will ask for that change?
We have already asked them, and we put that through for the lawyers to confirm. So we're just waiting for them to come. So there was a requirement for an annual General Assembly, and we turned around about the requirement for an annual GA for the receipt and review of the audited accounts. An annual online GA would be expensive just to deal with the audited financial statements. Lawyers were going to ask the registration office if whether an annual accounts review by the executive then sent to all the presidents in our international board are sufficient. Then these final accounts are compiled for the triennium. They would then be presented at the next Congress, which is not what we do now.
Yeah, because to have a General Assembly every year, it costs a lot for us.
Yes, no. We're definitely pushed back on that.
Yeah. We have anyway, according to our constitution, we have to send the audited financial statements every year. So to have, if it can be done by the International Board virtually, that is really not a big affair and should not be costly. But the General Assembly, that would be just not feasible.
And we've got some interesting things too with the translation between French and English. So when we got the lawyers' comments back, there were some things like executive board. They refer to executive board, and we've got executive. So there's still some things we're tweaking through. But also be aware, and it's in our current operating documents, and our documents will be registered in both English and French, and they will be online. So anyone that wants to know about BPW International will go to the registration office online. They can see who the signatories are. There's our constitution regulations are there, and both languages, English and French, as per moved and recorded in our operational internal policy document dated 1962, and it was resolution or amendment 04. any other questions? Is there any other information you would like me to take you through or show you?
No, it's only if you can send it to us, the Young BPW letter of concern that you mentioned, and also the exact, what you said, that in Helsinki, there is a resolution that mandate the registration, because I cannot, I just
Sorry,
didn't
that
find
was
it.
that's in the proceeding manuals, and it's been recorded as such. So,
Yeah,
and that's
it's
why I
only,
stuck it in here as well.
yeah,
So everyone
which,
who should have access to our proceeding manuals, we only have proceeding manuals online up to 2014. We have nothing
yeah,
since.
I know that. I know that. The 2011 that you mentioned, this resolution specifically.
Yes, it's there.
Could you
And
please send
it's
it
in,
to us?
excuse me, past international president, it's even in the constitution. It says under the Swiss civil code.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that, but it's, we are basing these changes in that resolution from
Yeah, but
2011.
it's in the proceedings. Very clearly there. We are not inventing anything. Okay,
As
ladies.
many members are not or have not this document, it's just a simple request. Could you please send to us this regulation that passed in 2011?
We'll send you the book, the proceedings book, because it's all typed up in there.
No, not the whole proceedings book. Caroline, no, only
Or the link.
this specific paragraph.
Yep. No, that's not a problem.
That's not
definitely
a
in there.
problem at all. We can send that through.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And then
Thank you very much.
Ladies, are there other questions from anybody else? Presidents or members, you are all very welcome to ask the questions in Spanish, in Portuguese, in English, French, whatever. If this is not the case, then I would say I would thank.
Permíteme, excuse me. Están poniendo en el chat que pueden hablar en español o en portugués. Entonces, si alguien tiene alguna pregunta y la quiere hacer en su idioma, lo puede hacer.
Thank you, past international president Yasmin. Christina, Claudia, could you say it probably also in Portuguese so that everybody, if you are still with us, so that anybody can understand it, they can talk in their own language?
Ok.
would-
Bom dia a todas. Bom, se alguém aqui do Brasil que está participando quiser fazer alguma pergunta, pode fazer em português, que a tradução está sendo feita, tá? Então vocês podem fazer em português, não precisa montar em inglês. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you very much. Listen, you can also write to us, either to Chair Caroline or to me, without any problem. If you have questions, we would like to include your comments. We would like to include a response also, give you a response also to the questions, and to be transparent and to include it also in our frequently asked question session. But I would like to thank you very much for your patience and for your time. And I really hope to get yours. We hope to get your support, because this is a very, as Executive Secretary Dr. Jenny said, it's a very important step we have to take, because BPW International is blocked in many ways now. And I don't think if our dear communication officer put in Caroline's and mine email, so please, we will answer it. And you can send it in Spanish, you can send it in Portuguese, it's not a problem. We have translation programs. My Spanish starts to be good enough to be able to and passively to understand. Speaking is a different story. Thank you very, very much. I wish you all a very nice and cozy time of Advent, and hope to see you at the International Congress, and probably earlier if we can have a extraordinary General Assembly. Thank you and have a good time. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.